one. All right. Oh, whoops.
Girl, she's a valley girl. For sure. Like, totally. Welcome to the Rad Podcast, all you rad people out there from whatever rad place you're
Get rad
watching
with
at
us
whatever
today,
rad
people.
time.
All right, so
It's time
everyone,
to
I
get
want
rad.
to introduce
International
you to a
edition.
special guest speaker that we have on board today. Ellie McNeil, all the way, well, she's living in Poland at the moment. But Ellie, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. Melly, from the best country in the world, Ireland, obviously. Living in the second best country in the world, Poland. So, can't complain.
Oh, really? Ah, okay. I didn't know. Well, I guess, everyone has a subjective view on what's the best country in the world. Am I right? So, yeah. Hey, if Poland's your
to be honest, I didn't know that Poland was the second best.
Oh,
well, they argue with me. They say it's the first best, but Ireland beats them. Just like
okay, all right. You got to stay close to those roots. I hear you right there.
Exactly.
Very cool. So, Ellie, today we're going to be talking about accents and the use of learning English and how to learn English. And we're going to play two TED Talk videos that I'm hoping will engage people into, how important English is in the daily lives that we play, right? Yeah.
Okay. Do I get to see this as well?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to share the screen eventually, and then, you'll be able to see it. But to begin, I'm just going to play a small, short clip by a man called Mark Greene. So let me just share the screen right here. Okay. And his clip right here is about how to talk like a native speaker. And, Ryan, Ellie, as well as myself, we're all English teachers. So, it's an interesting conversation that he has about, how to speak fluent English. But let's just watch this for 1 minute and then have a small discussion on it.
If you communicate without an accent or almost without an accent, this changes how natives behave towards you unconsciously. And it also gives you an ability to adapt to a new self-image. The best way that I've found, the best exercise I've found to improve your pronunciation is what I call the perfect sentence technique. What you do is you find a native speaker to help you, and you take a book in the foreign language, you open it at a random page, and you read the first sentence. Then you ask the native speaker to rate you on obvious accent, slight accent, no accent. Then the native speaker will read this sentence back to you. You have to listen carefully, and then you repeat. You repeat this process over and over until the native speaker tells you that he can no longer hear an accent when you read the sentence. Now, I realize it can take a very long time, even just to get one sentence right. But I promise you, if you are persistent and if you patiently work on this, you will be amazed what happens to your accent.
All right, so there's three things that really come out, and obviously the video, the whole title of it is Talk Like a Native. All right, that's the title of the TED Talk. But he mentions three important factors, which is the one that we've just watched, which is pronunciation. And he goes on in the video to then mention colloquial speech and how cultural traits are really important when you want to speak like a native. For you, Ellie, you're teaching in Poland. Do you have students that are trying to speak with an Irish accent sometimes, or jokingly maybe they try and poke fun?
Yeah, I have. Whenever I start a class, I always ask them what they did at the weekend. And I had a class once, like 14-year-olds, and one boy said, "Oh, I played a game," and I was like, "What? A game?" I was like, "What are you talking about? A game?" And he's like, "I played a game," and I was like, "What's a game?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "A game," and I was like, "Oh, you're saying game in my accent." And I was like, "Oh." I was like, "I get it."
Nice.
But it doesn't sound good. Like, they try and copy me sometimes, like, scooter, try and say it in my accent, and it's like, no, stop. Don't do it. Change this.
Well, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And Ryan, how about yourself? You're a man of the western side of the U.S.
That was actually something that I wanted to point out about that video at first, because one thing that he said was, speak. He said the word "speak" without an accent, and it's funny because I think that some people actually think that that's like a real possibility, that maybe there is some sort of standard form of language without an accent. But one of the first things that we have to remember is that everybody has an accent.
Yeah.
But you're right. I do have maybe what's considered to be some of the most, I don't know, common English accents because I'm from the Western United States, and especially because of Hollywood, my accent has just become like, I don't know, basic, I guess, or the standard
Yeah.
for a lot of the world. But yeah, I don't know. I enjoy this topic so much because well, I'll get it out of the way. Ellie, I was really excited when when David said that he was gonna invite an Irish person because my family's Irish. My dad was born in Cork, and I grew up with my grandparents speaking their accent, you know, my whole life, and that. Of
Mhm.
course, me and my brother would make fun of the way that they said certain words, and we would laugh, and it was just a lot of fun. So I think the topic of accents is great, but yeah, it's interesting when you want to teach students how to speak another language. A lot of the times they'll ask you like, well, how do I get rid of my accent? And that's always something that I really question if anybody should even try, you know. I mean, I think an accent is a pretty special thing, and it's part of our individual way that we speak. But
Yeah.
then again, you do want to pronounce words correctly too. So
You know, one
it's
thing
a
that I
fine
got to
balance.
thinking about as well when you were talking right there, Ryan, is you know, I mean, English is a spoken language now, like across the world in many ways, and something that kind of draws my attention is the fact that I'm pretty sure most students around the world, they're listening to some variation of the English accent. You know, but my question I think is like, what's the learning process that goes from maybe youth to adolescence? If you're learning from a teacher, let's say with Queen's English, you know, would you maybe adapt your English to your teacher if you had them from 6 to 14, for example? Maybe like you developed the accent, the English, the Queen's English, if you will, if you had someone from Royal England, you know, with that kind
Oh,
of,
kind of like convergence,
yeah,
kind of.
converge. Yeah, exactly. Like you
I
kind
get
of
that.
converge your accent into that. Yeah. I've never had students for that kind of long-term period in order to see the development like that, but it's always been something that's been like, would a student adapt their accent to the way that it's being heard, or do they develop their own accent? You know, that's kind of a, if you will, a quasi question right there. You know, it can lean one way or lean the other way depending on the individual, I would guess, right?
Yeah, it depends. I suppose it depends on how they feel about the teacher as well.
Mm.
Because I remember, I know it's not speaking, but whenever I was in secondary school, I had an English teacher, and she would write her R's with a capital R, and I decided I liked it because I liked her, and I wrote my R's with a capital R for years and years and years. But then I suppose if you didn't like the teacher, you would try and, I suppose, probably diverge your accent a wee bit rather than sound like them. But if you want to be like the teacher and you know you like them, then you're going to be like, okay, I'll give it a go. You know, like I like how you say this. So
Yeah, there's a relationship element that gets taken into place. I mean, when I first moved to the UK, I remember, oh my goodness, Miss Pippa, she had the strongest Queen's English that you can ever imagine. I remember picking up my brother one day, and she's like, "Oh yes, brother. David, he's in 4A," and I was like, "Oh, he's in the foyer. All right, cool." I sat there for 30 bloody minutes, honestly, and there I am thinking like, so where's my brother? This lady told me to wait in the foyer. And she walks past me and she's like, no, David, I said 4A. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, okay, well, there's a loss of translation right there, Miss Pippa. Thank you very much. And a good day to you. Yeah. So, I don't know, there's always like that relationship kind of like, what's going on here? Yeah. So you're right. There's a relationship kind of lingo that goes on as well. Definitely. Yeah. How about
Well,
your?
when I learned Spanish, I learned from a really, my teacher was a gringa, but she had spent, you know, many of her, she married a Mexican man, and she lived in Mexico for many years, and she studied in Mexico. And anyway, in the United States, the Spanish that we speak is pretty Mexican. And so I remember actually when I first came to Colombia, I went into a restaurant, and I was ordering some food, and I said, yeah, I want some pollo. And the person attending the restaurant like looked at me like I was speaking Chinese, and I was like, yeah, some pollo. they did not understand me. And I was like, I don't understand, what am I saying wrong? And so finally I like literally had to point it out on the menu. I was like, pollo, and pollo, okay. And you know, small things like that make you go, wow, you never really realize how. But I think it's that people get very stuck in their own accents, and then they're not able to be flexible and hear how other people might say something, right?
I mean, that's the thing. I think that there's like colloquial speech and cultural traits that are kind of embedded into accents, if you will, and that kind of, you know, forces you to avoid, you know, like breaking the norm for you, which is the colloquial speech that you're so used to. Like, I don't know, I know someone in London and he's always like, yeah, in it, bruv. I'm just like, oh, in it. Yeah, no, that's like, you know, and he's so used to it. He even travels to other places and he's still like, all right, yeah, cheers, in it. And people are like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. That's the colloquial speech and the kind of the cultural traits that's embedded into the accents, if you will. Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, I kind of get that with like in Poland, I teach in Kielce, but there's like a town beside me called Skarżysko. And whenever I say to a Polish person, I'm like, yeah, I'm teaching, and I like last year I used to say Skarżysko. And it sounds Skarżysko is basically the same. Like I have an American friend that speaks fluent Polish, and he was like, it's basically the same thing. But no Polish person was like, they were like, huh, Skarżysko? And I was like, Skarżysko, and they'd be like, oh, Skarżysko, and I'm like, the same thing. But they're like really like, if you pronounce it a tiny bit wrong, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no. It's the same kind of like with a foreign language. It's like when you're kind of attempting to pronounce it the way that, you know, they pronounce it the way the natives do, and then after they're like, okay, what are you saying to me right now? And I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, it's like I'm lost in my own little world sometimes with just not having the right twang, as the Texans say. Yeah, I like that term, the twang. Like, hey y'all got the Texas twang on you or no? You know, I love that word twang, you know, just to define an accent. Yeah, but I say twang in anywhere else in the UK or in Australia, you're gonna be like, all right, mate, what are you talking about right there? Twang. What is that? Some kind of fish and chips? I'm like, no. Not at all. But you guys know what I'm saying at least. Yeah, no, definitely.
And it's interesting too, because like for instance, now, I mean, or even probably after living here for a year, 2 years, I can't even imagine actually saying pollo now. I mean, I never would. I wouldn't say that word that way, or I would never say any word with the double L as a yeah. I always say it now as a j. So it's interesting how you adapt to your environment, I think. But I guess then again, yeah, if you were hostile towards your environment, then maybe you wouldn't adapt towards it. Maybe if you were
I guess
Colombians.
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, I mean, just to finish up on that TED Talk, because I'm going to show another one shortly. You know, in your all's opinion, you know, should students maybe like be striving for a native accent and like adapt to that, or should they just embellish the accent that they have? You know, if it's a second language, what's your all's opinion on that?
I think there's a line. I think, you know, you can maybe put it in the middle, because like I teach a few adults, and some of the adults in the group, they speak with an accent, but they don't speak with a very strong Polish accent. But then there's some people who speak with a very strong Polish accent, and I suppose, you know, if you go to like a foreign country and you have to maybe speak English, you know, the Polish would say their W's as V's. They're very heavy in the V's, so like it was quite hard to get used to her and how she spoke. But then the other ones still have an accent. So I think, you know, like basically, I don't think they have to try and have like a native accent. But I think maybe they have to sort of diverge away from the way they would speak Polish. You know,
not exterminate it, but like minimize it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, try and like, you know, because you kind of have to adopt, you know, like your W's are W's, not V's anymore, or, you know, like your J's are not Y's anymore. You have to pronounce them as J's. So some of their, you know, their accent thing sort of comes down to how they pronounce certain letters, and they sort of struggle to get over that.
Interesting aspect that you mentioned, how the V's sound like W's in Poland. A lot of people pronounce it that way, because I have a friend who lives in India, and I remember going to university with him, and oh my goodness, it was the reverse of it. You know, if the V's are W's in Poland, in India, they pronounced the V. Well, actually, no, it was the same. Yeah, the V's as W.
No, our W's were V's. In Poland,
Yeah.
the W's are V's. Yeah, so like.
Okay, yeah. Then after in India, it was the V's were W's. So you see how there was like a reverse, because he would always pronounce, "Hey, David, let's go out and get some vodka." I'm like, "What? Some vodka?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah. No, I know what you're saying. All right, that makes sense. Yeah." Ryan, what's your take?
Well, I mean, in language acquisition theory, I think they use the term intelligibility, right? Like, and though I'm still scratching my head over why that woman did not understand me when I said pollo. Like, I don't think that should have been a block to her understanding. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, if you can't be understood, then obviously it's a problem, right? You need to adapt yourself at least to the point of being intelligible. But let me just give you a small little example. Again, in Colombia, our students always say, instead of yes, they say yes. But I'll be honest, I don't want them to change that. Like, I think it's the most adorable thing in the world, and I would prefer that they continue saying Jess for the rest of their lives. So I don't know. It's a tough one.
Just like the ha 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 is a ha ha ha. Yeah.
Exactly.
Still love
Like,
that.
ja ja ja.
All right, fantastic. So that kind of sums up our discussion on accents, if you will. But another topic that I wanted to bring in, there's a social. Have you guys heard of a socio-linguistic person, someone who studies linguistics in society? It's kind of a professional eavesdropper, if you will. Have you ever heard of this profession? Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, but I've never heard it explained that way.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Professional eavesdropper. They're supposed to just study the role of language in society. So obviously, like, they accept the fact that, millennials have all these new language terms of like, yeah, it's lit, bro. Get lit, son. Like, what are you talking about? What is this lit business that you're talking about? But I'm going to show a small little clip where she talks about the variations of meaning in society, depending on how it is told. So let me just show a quick clip. Her name's Vera Regan. I'm going to leave a link to the YouTube, to the TED Talk just below. But here we go.
However, there are many aspects of language where we do have a choice. These are the variable aspects, and these are the fun bits for the sociolinguists. Just take two ways of saying the same thing. So if you see a sentence like this, you could also say it like this. It means the same. You could say that means the same. Well, some of the meaning is the same. The referential meaning is what's similar. The social significance is different. And it's that social significance that makes such a difference and gives us such knowledge of the speaker on the one hand, the hearer on the other, the social context they're living in on the third. And we really need to tune into this stuff. When I was studying at the
So I think that small little clip that she showed right there of, the reference meaning versus the social meaning, is something that, across, the various countries that speak English natively, there's lots of variations, right? Like, I know the way you would say something in England is different to the way that you would say it in the US naturally, or Ireland to the UK. There's those natural reference meanings versus social meanings. And that's kind of the thing that I find really interesting about the profession of someone who's a socio-linguistic individual as far as a profession. They're studying the role of language in society and the variations that it holds. I think it's even a generational thing, that kind of plays out as well. But in terms of, like she showed that example right there of saying like, yeah, what? You say what? It's something that interested me about socio kind of meanings, and that what it means to one person doesn't mean the same to another, right?
I think so. I think that like, for instance, sometimes what I've been starting to think about recently is the way that I say things, and my students oftentimes they like to tease me, and they like to say that that basically I talk like a cowboy. and that British English is much more refined and much more cultured and much more proper and all of this stuff. And I say, what are you talking about? You know, so
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, exactly. I mean, go to Texas and talk like a refined, sophisticated British person.
Yeah.
See how far that gets you, right? I mean, so everything has its function and its moment, right? Its context. So yeah, and then what's interesting is to be able to be a person who's able to exist in multiple different contexts, right? Because there's some people who only get stuck in one. I mean, they can only exist in one type of context. But I like to be able to throw down my street language just as much as I like to, sound sophisticated in an intellectual conversation. So
Yeah.
they're both so important.
Nice. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think everything sort of has a time and a place. Like where I'm from, well, see, I have an American friend here, and he studied linguistics. He's extremely smart, like very verbose, knows exactly what he wants to say. See, like, if you said to him, "What is this in English?" he has a response. He knows, he's like an encyclopedia for English. He knows everything about everything. And I used to talk to him about coming to visit my family because he's interested in the linguistics of like how my family talk and how I talk. And he said that he didn't think that he would fit in because he was nervous, like because the way he speaks and he's so verbose. And my family are very much like, "What's the crack? What's up?" My daddy, he actually asked me today. He said, "Can you ask your father why he says Dion?" So my daddy would call people Dion, and I don't know why. It's just a thing from where I'm from. They'd be like, "What's going on, Dion?" Or "What's going on, Rupert the Bear?" Like they just call people, and it's just so strange. But he's really interested in it, and he was worried like how he would fit in with like people from where I'm from, because nobody is verbose. And if you have a different accent where I'm from, people are like, "What's happened to you? Like what's going on? Why are you talking like this?" So I always get worried, like going home, because I have to change my accents for my students and like try and actually talk more British. And I always, like, I pronounce my T's more. And whenever I go home, I'm like, "Oh God, I wonder what people are going to think of me whenever I say latte instead of latte." Like,
No. I know what you mean, Ellie. That's an interesting aspect that you were talking about with your dad, because when I think about like, two friends like communicating and being like, "Hey, what's up?" There's so many variations of that right there. Like, "Yo, dude, what up, bro?" There's "All right, mate, how you doing?" There's "All right, mate, how you doing? What's up, bro?" "Yo, dude." "Hey, bro, Han Solo." That's one of my favorites. A little bit weird, but
we say, what is it? We say, "What's the crack?"
"What's the crack?" I like it. I might have to throw a cheeky Nando at that one right there. I like it. Yeah, cheeky Nando. Oh my goodness, I don't even know how to define that right there. Not even an Englishman knows how to define it, honestly. But it's like, "All right, mate, we're going to go get a cheeky Nando, yeah?" I don't know. What have you heard from cheeky Nando, Ellie?
A cheeky Nando's just,
Yeah.
A dirty Nando's. That's what we'd say. "Oh, look at this big dirty burger." So maybe it's like a big cheeky Nando's,
I don't know. It's weird, but I kind of love the variations of just like saying, or like here. Okay, for example, Spanish as well. Here's a good example. "Oye, ¿qué pasa, tío?" Like calling someone an uncle. That's totally normal. But then here, what is it, Ryan, that they say all the time?
Parce?
Yeah. I still haven't gotten used to that. And then after like some kids at school,
you don't even know what a parce is.
I don't. I always thought it was a parcel, and I'm like, what is he talking about, a parcel? Yeah, but I'm used to the phrase of calling someone an uncle. Like tío. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. That's kind of like same reference meaning, different social meaning. Kind of example. Yeah, definitely.
Right. Yeah, and it's difficult for non-native speakers because when I got here, for instance, the common greeting is "que más."
Oh yeah.
And the only way I could understand "que más" was very literally like what more? And I was just like, so my answer for the first like year was like, nada, nothing, I guess. And that's not an appropriate response to que más. Like you need to say bien, bien. Or the same thing happens to me all the time. I'll say to a student, what's up? And then they'll say good. And I'm just like, nah, that didn't quite work.
Yeah. Oh,
Good. To me, good is not a good response for what's up, right?
No.
So
And like in Polish, they say "soto," which is literally what this.
What this?
Yeah, like "soto." What's this? Like "soto kiwi," and then they're like, "What's this?" I'm like, "What?" You know, like this is weird as well. Like,
and that
So-
just means hello or what's up or
The natural translation
basically,
of
what's up?
what's this would be like, instead of what's up, it's like, what's this? Like, do I know you? Is that kind of like, right? What's this? Like, who are you? Is that kind of
Yeah,
how-
like I think maybe it's like what's this, what that, what's that, something like that. What is something? It's just something that doesn't make any sense if you take it literally.
Okay, all right. No, that's that's what I like, the variations of just being like, introductions, the various social kind of introductions that people have on a cultural level, I mean, there's variations that, exist, and those variations that exist just they multiply depending on the cultures or even the subcultures within that, like a surfer will be like, "Oh, bro, what up, man?" But you talk to, I don't know, a frat boy or something in the US, it'd be like, "Yo, dude, the other day," and it's like, oh, okay. So, there's those small, like, social meanings that even in the subculture kind of region, they vary right there in themselves, not just across national borders. I think it's also subcultures that have variations, right?
Hmm.
yeah. And then you even have weird individuals who just like to say stuff that's just different, right? I mean, I don't know, when I came here, I decided that I was going to start to say weird little greetings too. So I taught people like what it is. That's like very I don't know, that's like very like New York hip hop or something like that. It's not even from my culture necessarily, but I like it, like what it is.
Yeah,
Sounds cool.
definitely very cool.
I like to
I actually,
throw a wrench into the wheels every once in a while.
to be fair, what it is, I actually was thinking like I don't know if somebody said what it is, I don't think I'd understand it. I actually don't think I do understand it.
Yeah.
I it's like I said, it's not from my culture. I only know it from like hip hop. So
Yeah, I don't understand it.
All right, so if that's everything, guys, we did our 30-minute podcast today. And Ellie, once again, thank you for coming online. You're going to meet, well, actually, many hundreds of students are going to meet you. So we're really thankful that you joined us today. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is for the students. Well, thank God, because I was actually thinking I was going to ask if I could swear in the beginning, but I didn't need to. Thankfully, because I was unsure whether or not it was.
Hey, you did exceptional. You kept your roots inside. You did very well. Thank you, Ellie. We really appreciate this, actually. Yeah. So we're looking for we're looking for more guest speakers. So, if you're, please join.
I can ask my American friend. Sure, he's the linguist. He's super smart, though.
All right. Yeah, no. We're looking for some mind bombs to be dropped here, if you will. Just like some plucking 8 hydrogen bombs, but in the knowledge sense, like just to be dropped on the podcast. So, we'll welcome any kind of knowledge or anything that people want to share with us. Like, we're up for anything, honestly. So definitely.
Well, I'll ask him. I'll ask him for you.
Fantastic. On that
No,
note,
San Miguel. Sorry.
What's that, Ellie?
No, I just said it was nice to meet you, Ryan.
Yeah. Hey, I'll
The
probably
same.
see you in England, hopefully over the summer. Yeah. No, definitely. I'm supposed to go back in June, but we'll see how everything gets written up. As far as the future is, because the future is never written. Once again. So on that note, everyone, thank you very much, and you hopefully had a rad time with Ryan and David and our guest speaker of today, Ellie. Acronym RAD. So as Ryan will tell you guys.
Ryan and David means
rad. So get rad.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. All right, everyone, take care, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Ciao, ciao.